Chapter 2. The Beginning of the End. That smoke is coming from Salma's school. I started running toward that direction when someone tackled and pined me to the ground. What the hell? As I turned around to see the culprit, another man came knocking him off of me. Hey boy, get out of here quick, don't let them bite you. It was a cop and he had a huge bite mark that way using thick blood on his neck. He smashed his club on the man that tackled me, splashing his brains all over. What the hell is happening? I was really confused at what was happening. Looking up, the bus that had crashed had blood all over the windows. Looking closely, the blood was from inside where school children were screaming. Someone crashed out the window, and that's when I saw it. It was a young girl with beetroot red eyes. Blood was coming from her mouth and her leg was mangled in a disturbing manner. She made eye contact with me and started running towards me. Yes, she was running with a broken leg. It didn't even seem to bother her, and that's when it dawned on me. Zombies, these were bloody zombies. The girl was fast on her feet, but make no mistake, my body has endured more than a wild dog. I turned towards Salma's school and made a run for it. I know it's a shame, right? I ran away from a little girl. But F it, a zombie has no pride. In about 10 seconds, I made huge gap from the zombie girl. I didn't turn to see for even a second, because my brain was somewhere else. Salma, I hope she's alright. She is a survivor like me. There is no way a zombie will get her right. The more I thought about it, the more I got worried. I reached the front gates, and what I saw made my stomach churn in fear. Half the school was on fire, and everyone was running. Kids bumped into each other, and others never stood up from the ground. Salma! I shouted as I ran towards the entrance of the school. Kids were running out of the school in waves. Some of them knocked me back, but I of course kept running. I know calling them kinds is kind of weird considering some of them were older than me, but trust me, responsibilities are what makes one mature. A few meters to the entrance, a body fell down and splat blood all over. Breaking every rule that God made, the body started moving and stood up. I could now clearly see the main features. It was a boy slightly taller than me with a more muscular build. He was clearly an upper-class man. His teeth were longer with thick blood trickling from it, and he looked at me with his red eyes and charged forward. I reached for my waist and removed a small wooden club. Without hesitating, I lunged downward and planted a nice crispy hit on the zombie's nuts. What? Don't look at me like that, it's a zombie. A zombie or not, that's the most painful part in a male's body. I hope the girls are not reading this and taking note. Wink. As expected, the zombie made that well-familiar sound and fell to the ground, rolling in pain and groans. The hallways were semi-empty, except for some kids being torn apart by zombies. Salma! I kept calling her name as I charged forward. Meanwhile, a group of students were fighting off a zombie in the middle of the class. Salma held a broken plank that broke off a desk. Blood was smeared on her face, and the other people wondered how she could stay that calm after murdering her classmate in cold blood. Are you crazy? Why did you kill her? One of the boys said as they slowly backed away from her. Salma scanned the room and saw one particular boy standing by the window. The veins on his neck were violently pumping, about to burst. She quickly ran towards him and kicked him in the chest. He went through the window, and of course they were in the 5th floor. The other students ran towards the door trying to escape, but Salma intercepted them. No one lives. I know I sound like a mad woman, but trust me, this is for your own good, Salma said as she threatens to attack them, pushing the back. The teacher was a middle-aged woman with a slender body and medium curves. Salma, what is the meaning of this? She asked with a cracked voice. It was clear she was scared, but being the teacher she had to be the responsible one here. Zombie, Salma replied in neutral tone. She had grown up to be an emotionless girl after going through hell with Lei Shun. Salma, zombies aren't real, okay, so please put the weapon down and calm down, the teacher, whose name is Fiona, said as she hesitantly approached Salma. Okay, Salma said as she gave the bloody rod to Fiona. Just know that when zombie attack you, I will not be there to save you, she said as she went for the door. Wait, don't live. Even though it sounded weird, Fiona saw that Salma was a help and she didn't have the balls to kill someone, yet. Huh? Why shouldn't I leave? Salma said in a neutral face. Maybe there are more of them outside, Fiona said, trying to get Salma to stay without being direct. But of course Salma understood her well. I am better off on my own, she said as she opened the door and left. Fiona's heart had practically skipped a beat. She ran out the door and followed her. A few seconds later, and the other students followed her too. Stop following me, dead weight, Salma said as she increased her pace. She knew that taking care of them would be a pain and increased her speed. That's when she heard a familiar voice calling her name. Gasp, that's Big Brother, she said, and that's the first time the others saw Salma smile. The boys were of course getting hypnotized by the smile, and surprisingly some of the girls' faces lit red. Salma rushed towards the stairs that descended down, but hallway she saw Lei Shun in a killing frenzy. His clothes were soaked in blood from top to bottom and bodies laid on the ground motionless. After killing the last zombie, he called for Salma again only to see her rushing towards him and hugging him. Are you okay, sis? Did any of them bite you? I quickly asked her as I inspected her. It's okay, brother, I'm fine, I sighed in relief, and that's when I saw the crowd that followed her. Are they with you? I asked Salma, which she replied no. Fiona felt a betrayal arrow pierce through her back like a sword. Hey, can you please help us? We don't know what's really going on, Fiona asked, warily. Sorry, but we are better off alone, I said as I held Salma's hand, running through the dead bodies. Another sort of rejection right through Fiona's back. She tried following them, but the dead bodies on the ground almost made her throw up. How are kids able to stand this sight? Not forgetting that it was Salma's brother that did this in the first place, Fiona thought as she turned to the rest. Oh yeah, of course these ones are normal kids. The other students were gagging, others vomiting all over the place. That left her wondering what Salma and her brother went through to act like this. A few seconds later, Lei Shun came running back holding Salma princess style. Ha 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 ha, they came back. Knew they couldn't leave us alone to die, Fiona thought, but Lei Shun swiftly went through them and up the stairs without saying a word. Huh? What was that all about? Fiona thought when her question got unanswered. Turns out, Lei Shun was running away from a horde of zombies which were now charging towards the unsuspecting students. Fiona threw her pride and profession back and ran past them without a word. Oh? Quick learner, Lei Shun thought when he saw Fiona behind him running. When the students saw Fiona leave them, some of the students followed, but most of them remained confused. That's when a scream from behind entered their ears. They started running towards Lei Shun and Fiona, but some of them were caught and became zombie lunch. They entered the classroom they came from and blocked the door with multiple seats and lockers. The zombies pounded the door, but with no results. Some of them gave up and started roaming around while others were persistent. At least for now the class provided defense, but for how long? That was the question on Lei Shun's mind. Looking back, a number of students had survived the previous stampede. I stood up and started a head count. 1, 2, 3 - 7, they were a total of 7 including Salma and I. Chapter 3. What's going on? A few hours went by and the hallway outside the classroom had grown silent. It was clear that the zombies had given up or something. The class wasn't bad for defense. The windows were on the other side of the outer wall, and the wall by the hallway had no windows. The door was the only way to get in or out. It may sound good for them, but it was a double-edged sword. If it was one way in, that meant it was one way out too. Most of the students in the class were frightened. They were shaking vigorously, and most of them had clustered together. Fiona was trying really hard to hide her fear so as to not worry the students more. I spent most of the time looking out to the city, and what I was seeing was something straight out of a movie. Smoke filled the sky and most of the cars were on fire. A series of explosions were heard every now and then, accompanied by screams and wails. The electricity is still on, but I'm sure it won't be long before it's gone. Does anyone have a phone? I asked, but no one replied. If we had a phone, we would at least know what's happening and what scale was the outbreak. As I was pondering on what to do next, a girl approached me and shoved her hands inside her bra. "Hey, what the hell are you trying to do?" I asked her as I slowly took a step back. I've seen so many girls today rush at me trying to eat me, so I'm not at fault for being on guard. She removed a smartphone from that place, handed it to me with a flushed red face. "Here, I didn't want to show that I had a phone in school because it's prohibited," she said while shooting Fiona a sideways glance. "Really? If you were in trouble for having a cell phone, then what about my sister, Salma here? I mean, you saw her commit murder, right?" I knew it was the wrong time to try and crack a joke, but I knew that being composed at such times was better in making decisions. I quickly browsed on the internet, which was still on by luck, and loaded the world news. Breaking news: multiple cities around Kafra have fallen from an unexplained disease breakout. The disease is said to be transmitted through by a scratch or a bite from an infected person. People are expected to stay indoors. The infected are said to be attracted by noise and light. The news was giving off helpful information, and I knew we were lucky to have this phone here. I personally didn't afford a phone, but Gary taught me how to operate it at least. The disease symptoms are violence. The infected become violent and attack the healthy people, assuming the infected. It is not known how they can tell between a healthy and an infected, but some information claim to be smell. Coming to think about it, when I was looking for Salma earlier, some of the zombies ignored me, and that's how I could take down multiple of them. Looking at my clothes, they were soaked with a deep dark blood that came from the zombies when injured. It has to be the blood. The blood had a foul smell like that of a rotting corpse coming from it. The second symptoms are, before the reporter finished, the lights went off and the phone signal disappeared. Curse you, mother of luck, I felt like screaming. It's way good information, but that didn't answer all of my questions, like how long does it take for a healthy person to turn after infection, or the main course of the outbreak. One thing was clear though, the apocalypse had started and it was worldwide. Think less, Han. What have you learned from all the zombie movies you've seen? I asked myself. Shelter, food, weapons, resources, power, medicine, and of course family. The first thing that came to mind after the chaos was Salma, and she was the only family I had. Back at home, when my parents died, no one came to help us even after seeing the land grabbers. My uncles, aunties, and the rest of the family abandoned us, so I only did the obvious and abandoned them too. What are we going to do? Ashley, the girl who gave me the phone, asked. The rest of the group turned and looked at me with expectant faces. Why are you looking at me? Shouldn't you be asking your teacher that question? I replied. Everyone turned their heads to Fiona. She hesitantly looked at me as if begging me to rescue her, and of course I couldn't oppose those big blue eyes. Well, I only came here to take Salma, so please don't follow me if you don't want to, I said as I approached Fiona. She was almost the same height as me with long black hair tied in a ponytail. I leaned towards her and whispered in her ears, "It'll only help you because my sister has told me a lot about your help with bullies, and she also seems to like you, which is rare, so please don't take this the wrong way. I'm helping you so in return you help her." The words seemed harsh, but life has taught me not to trust anyone. I am going to leave most decisions to you, so don't rely on me so much. Before things get out of hand, we need to find food, I said as I approached Salma. Handing her my bag, she removed a closed dish. She was confused, but knew what it was when she opened it. A sweet aroma filled the room and everyone started drooling. It was already dark and the last meal that everyone had was breakfast. The chaos started during lunchtime, so not everyone had their meal by then. What about you, brother? She asked. Of course I lied to her and told her that I ate before packing her lunch. Looking around, the others were salivating and some of them were looking at Salma with pleading eyes. After eating half the food, she stood up and gave the remaining half to Fiona. Take this, I heard you in the morning telling the other teachers how busy you were forgetting you break fast, Salma said as she forcefully placed the dish on Fiona's hands. But Before Fiona could refuse, Salma picked up her bloodied club and pointed it at her. "Start eating or I'll smash your head with this," Salma said as she swung her weapon. Fiona started eating fast, almost choking. I simply smiled and unconsciously smiled at her. Salma came and sat on my hips and closed her eyes. I guess she was tired. I took off my jacket and laid it on her like a blanket. A few minutes later, and she was sound asleep. The others couldn't believe how a cute girl like her could turn into the devil in a blink. The others were wondering how someone could sleep amidst such chaos. The growls of the zombies could be heard for miles and people screaming. "Hump, these guys don't know what we have been through. This is nothing to us. Maybe the zombies and all that chaos is new, but sleeping under a polluted bridge and eating from a dumpster is worse to me." Stroking her hair gently, I started getting sleepy and slowly drifted away. In my sleep, started dreaming about today's experience, and that's when something caught my eye. Every time I killed a zombie, a blue light blinked in front of me once, barely noticeable. This went on for a few more minutes, and the blinking light kept showing after each and every kill. In a certain moment, I felt my body generating energy, and the fatigue slowly faded away. That happened twice today, but I brushed it off as a simple adrenaline rush. Deep amidst my dream, a voice rang in my head. "Host level 2, strength 30, stamina 30, speed 15, intelligence 20, EXP 150/200, ability, craft and inventory, battle points 100, 3 lucky draw cards. What are all these?" I asked myself, "Would you like to use your lucky cards?" The voice said. I assumed it to be my dream and played along. Dreams are the closest thing to my reality, and it's the only time there were no problems. "Yes," I said, and the strange screen started rolling. After a few seconds, it stopped. "Congratulations, you have acquired the Eyes of Revelation." The Eyes of Revelation is a skill that allows you to differentiate between a zombie and a human. It also reveals the health and level status of both humans and zombies. Without taking another second, it started rolling ahead. As it was rolling, I thought to myself, if only this was real and I could use this weird game-like system in the current situation. The system broke me from my deep thoughts as it spoke. "Congratulations, you have acquired the ability to share your stats with one person. You can give one person the desired stat point, but only in one field, either speed, strength, stamina, or intelligence. You have received 5 free stat points as a gift. Would you like to choose a person to allocate stats?" When I think about it, if it was in real life, I would allocate all of my speed on Salma. I want her to be fast and run away from the zombies. Potential host has been chosen. Please choose the amount of stat points to allocate to Salma's speed. I saw that I had 10 free stat points, so I placed them all into Salma's speed. The allocation of 10 stat points to Salma is complete. After those words, the system screen disappeared, and in front of me was Salma. She was sleeping soundly, but she suddenly woke up. "Brother, why do I feel weird?" she said as she sat upright. "What do you mean, sis?" I asked her warily. I knew that the dream was over and my fantasies were gone, but that's when I saw a green bar on top of Salma's head.